Hi there, I went to a barn sale today and I was able to find a couple more of these 25-inch dolls, and I was hoping to find them so I can use them for the parts, because that putting that Sculpey clay is not working on that doll's finger. So I'm hoping that I can clean up a couple of these arms and used to replace one of the arms. I paid $5 a piece for these dolls. They're really in bad shape. They were both in the barns and they've been damaged beyond repair. The only thing I can really save on this doll's face is probably the eyes. But I've already taken her head off. She was torn a little bit here. Her nose was gone. Her top lips were gone. She was just a complete mess. So this is basically how her body comes apart. It's hard plastic. And what that does is how she gets that rotation on her hips is just this popped together plastic. To be able to get the arms out, you have to really soften this plastic. I used my heat gun and I held it on for a good 5 minutes so you can actually feel the plastic give. So, I mean, if you want to get these off in one piece, you've really got to heat this plastic up very well. Otherwise, you're going to end up breaking them. I didn't heat the plastic up very well, and I got the leg off anyway, but it's so much easier if you just go. I did tear the plastic a little bit here, so I'm really going to have to soften it up and get it back in, maybe put some glue here, maybe to see if I can get it back together. But I'm probably not even going to put this one back together. I'm just going to use it for the arms, so I'll probably end up just, if the pieces are reusable, I'll keep them, otherwise I'll throw them out. But they both have their original underwear on. They're really in bad shape. The elastic is completely gone, and all it was a pair of knit underwear with elastic in the legs and the waist. This dress was very nice. It had bow ties on both of the shoulders, and it came with attached lace skirt, netting slip. It had on the side, they've got this fancy slip part showing, and they've raised it on each side, and then they put a bow in the middle with a little flower here. I hope this is showing in the camera. Yeah. The flower feels like it's just cotton, like really a stiff cotton, and I bet that was beautiful when it was brand new, but it's so discolored now. But I may take this dress apart and try to recreate it. But it has the same 3 snaps in the back. And then the other doll is in much better shape. She is, her dress is worse shape, but the doll's in better shape. The only damage that I can see is she's got a little part of her nose has been, I don't know, gouged out or melted out, or I'm not sure what happened. She has a little, I don't know what this dress originally looked like, but it looks like it was actually twisted over to the side, and she's got that satin bow with the 2 different colors, and it looks like there may have been a flower or a sprig of something right here, and but it was twisted on the bottom, so it gave it flair. Can you see how they had ruffles on the bottom of that all the way across? So I'm sure it was a beautiful dress when it was brand new. I might take this one apart too and see how it turns out. Same 3 ribbons, but I'm going to clean her up and see if I can restore her as far as her hair and her nose. That's about her only damage, as far as I can see, besides just being extremely dirty. But I don't see the arrow on the back of the neck like the original one I got. I just see a number. But I'm going to spray her hair like I did with the dark-haired brunette, and her eyes are in pretty good shape, so all I got to do is clean her up and see if I can fix her up. But yeah, she's pretty dirty. I've been working on some, let me get this stuff out of the way. I've been working on some shoes. I got a couple shoes already made. I shouldn't put it on a dirty foot, but there's my first shoe that I've made. This is a high heel shoe. first one. Well, it wasn't my first one. This was my first one that I made. I did it with, I did a pump. And made her a pair of pumps. But they're pretty easy once you get the hang of them. But I'll do a whole video on them. But basically what I'm doing is I took, let me get these dolls out of the way. I took 55-pound galvanized steel. I tried softer steel, but it wouldn't hold up for the weight of the shape, because what you want to do is you want to shape the shoe in the form that you want it to be, and then you put cardboard on top and cardboard on bottom, and that is your high heel. So I took the galvanized steel and I bent it in the shape of the foot. So take your foot and line up your steel so that she was actually wearing a shoe, and you're going to want to do it so that you get the angle correct. Okay, so you're going to have to use pliers because it's just this wire is just too strong to bend by hand. You can try less heavy steel, but I did that on the first pair and it kept bending out of shape on me, and I couldn't hold the form. So that's why I went with the heavier steel. But the heavier steel does require using, I mean, you can do it, but it's just really hard. So you're better off just using a pair of pliers and making your own little forms. And you know, you can make these while you're sitting on the couch or whatever. You don't have to do it while you're in front of a doll. But that's how you start. So once you have that, you're going to take your hot glue and you're going to, I took a piece of foam and I cut it in little squares so I could build up my form so that it's even all the way around, because you want that to be even all the way around. And the reason you do is because that when you put your, I'm using that vinyl glitter fabric from Hobby Lobby, and then I glued that top on, and then I took that same piece and I glued it in half, and I was able to make my loops, and then I made 2 loops. I don't know if you can see on the inside, and then I put a piece of pink across to give it a little more design. So that was that one right there. Maybe it's the wrong foot. That's right. No, it's the right foot. And that's how you get that dirty foot, but that's the shoe. And it should be able to stand up on its own unless she's out of balance. She probably needs her whole body to be able to stand up. She does. Okay, so that was that one. And then what I did for the, I found a couple of these old round chopsticks, and I thought I could cut these off and use them as heels, and I did that on this one, and I covered it with fabric, and then I just glued it to the bottom of the cork board. The cork board I'm using is so old that it's starting to dry out, and when I try to cut it, it makes little gouges. So I used some of that Shine and Restore Pledge, the orange oil, and it does soften up your cork, and it'll probably give it a longer life, but I don't know how long these shoes are actually going to last with that cork board. And it's not as sturdy as you get with the tees. The tees you can get at Walmart. There's the plain ones. They have 2 different kinds. They have 2 3/4 and 2 1/4. I got the 2 3/4 because they're a little wider in diameter. And they are a little bit, they're that extra ½ inch longer, but it doesn't matter because you're going to cut them off anyway. So what I did is I went out to my husband's workshop and I used his sander. I just turned his sander on with, I think I used 60 grit sandpaper, and I just held the tees on at an angle. I just held the tees like this at an angle, and I was able to get a clean cut on that, so that then now I can just go ahead and paint these. I painted them and I varnished them, and that's what I'm going to be using for the heels. It gives you more of that stiletto effect on the shoes. But I'm going to see if I can make a few pair of these since I'm going to have 2 dolls now. Hopefully I'll have 2 dolls if I can fix. You get a lot more stability on those too than you do on these. There's something about this cork board that just is not the best. I also took another piece of, what I won't do this again, I tried to line it after the fact and put a lining in there. And now you see the toes will stick out, so you're better off just taking fabric and gluing it directly to the top of your form and then finishing off your shoes, because this just adds a little bit too much height and the toes will stick out. But what I did is I made the form like this, and I used buckram on the inside and the buckram, and then and then turned it inside out, top stitched it, and then I was able to glue it under. It's not the best pattern, so I'm not going to use it again, but I even tried the paper mache shoes. This is the wrong foot. It does work. You cover your doll's foot with I followed that instruction on that one video I was watching. It was foil, and then I covered it with paper mache, and you do get a nice shoe. But you're not going to get a smooth finish unless I coat it with something like, take plaster of Paris or something and build it up and make a textured shoe. You could do that, and you can paint it. I mean, you could do anything, you know, there's just anything you can do. You can do it. But I'm just using plain old cardboard, nothing fancy for that. But that's it. So it's my adventures today. I'll show you the doll if I can get it cleaned up and fix the one head. This one is just going to get her eyes cut out and thrown away. But okay, I'll talk to you later. Have a good one.